CD Projekt Red is back with the 4th episode of Night City Wire, and I, Mark the Cyborg, am also back with another recap for you. I've been making these videos for the Gaming with Geeks channel since episode 1, and I sprinkle in a bit of analysis and a few jokes, so check out the links in the description to catch up on the series. The love of Lethal Lightning's life comes back to host yet again. No, not Alex Zedra, CD Projekt's Holly Bennett. I think he's Polly or something, I don't know. He's Australian, they're weird.
Yeah, wrecked.
This was probably the weakest episode of Night City Wire so far, but we did get a few interesting bits of info. The vehicles were the star of the show this time around, and we got a brief look at all the different classes which you can buy and or steal. Economy cars are the beaters, cheap-looking cars which you don't have to be afraid of wrecking. A small, smart car-looking vehicle was shown, and it seems that while it will guarantee that you won't be getting any action if you're seen in it, you will be able to drive it into some unconventional places. Executive cars are the lowriders, boxy muscle cars which look fancy but also very tough. They look like the ride of choice for the Valentino gang, which we saw in episode 3. The heavy-duty class are the large armored trucks. If you ever wondered what the chase at the end of the Terminator would look like with more than one cyborg, well, I suppose you could watch almost any other Terminator movie, but if you wondered what it would be like if everyone was a cyborg, this is the class you want to go with. The sport class is what I presume most people will be going for. They're customizable and can vary between slick BMW type cars which wouldn't look out of place being driven by Jason Statham, and tough, smaller Mad Max style muscle cars, which are totally my jam. Hypercars are the highest of the high end. They're essentially the Bentleys or McLarens of Cyberpunk. They're extremely expensive to the point that very few people in the world can even hope to afford them, which means the best way to acquire one is probably going to be to steal it. We get a quick interview with senior vehicle designer Paul DeLacy, who clarified that there will be several versions of the same vehicles, so you see a huge difference between a car found in Night City and the same car found out in the Badlands, but they won't just look different, they'll handle differently too. He then touches on the racing missions in the game and clarified that Cyberpunk will have both off-road racing in the Badlands and street racing in the city, but specifies that regardless of where you race, you'll need some guns, so expect combat to factor into the races heavily.
You dirty knife nipple bastards!
What'd you say to me, you target chest piece of shit?
Race war!
No, not that kind of race. God. They cap off the segment by showing off Johnny Silverhand's Porsche 911 Turbo, which is a restored 1977 model, making it a 100-year-old car within the game. I'm going to go out on my robot limb and say that V will be driving it at some point in the game. Also, you hear this line at the end of the trailer.
Floor it, V.
The next segment was on vehicle audio design and was halfway between being a DVD special feature and a Top Gear episode. It was interesting in its own right and shows the level of dedication and, well, budget which CDPR is putting into Cyberpunk's sound design, but ultimately it didn't really tell us too much about the game itself. Sound designers are the unsung heroes of game development, as sound effects can truly make or break otherwise solid aspects of a game, like the way guns or vehicles feel, but for the most part, very few people will buy a game because it sounds good. So if you're an audiophile, or you're very interested in how AAA games approach sound design, learning things like how many microphones are used to get a car engine to sound just right is pretty cool, but I imagine everyone else was losing interest at this point. They then follow up that cool, but most people probably won't care segment with a somewhat revealing point about Keanu Reeves' contract. Keanu is the co-founder of Arch Motorcycles, who make high-end custom bikes. These motorcycles will be featured in the game, and honestly they look fantastic, but it did sort of feel like a commercial, and it would be hard to watch it without thinking this was definitely an important piece of the why is Keanu Reeves in this game puzzle. It must be said, I think their bike with the thick tires that resembles Kaneda's bike from Akira looks amazing, and I wish I still had a human rear braking foot so I could ride it. But I'll settle for riding it in the game. Next we shift gears entirely into the fashions of Night City. These styles move beyond clothes and hair too, and into everything you can equip, including weapons. The first style shown is called Kitsch and features brightly colored hair, glowing tattoos, and chrome cybernetics. Bright pastel colors and form over function seem to be the trend here. Anthropism is up next and is the rebellious look for those with a who cares attitude. Function over form is what Entropism appears to be about, and these are certainly the threads you might rock if you've only got $20 in your pocket. Neo-militarism is a style which is much more clean and classy than it sounds. When I heard the name, I thought it would be tactical fashion like 511 pants or Rocky boots, articles of clothing which I'm no stranger to being a member of the military, but it seems like it's much more along the lines of military dress uniforms. The Corpos seem to really like this slick style, which looks like a cross between the fashion of the Matrix and the officers from Starship Troopers. Neo-kitsch is the last style shown, and it is a hybrid of the neo-militarism's classy aesthetic with the flashiness of kitsch. It is the style which is most popular with the celebrities of Night City, with the terms flashy, elegant, and expensive being the order of the day. Once the in-game fashion segment ended, Holly showed us some of the finalists in the Cyberpunk 2077 cosplay contest. There were certainly some cool entries, and should a company like Netflix ever want to do a live-action Cyberpunk show, they should absolutely take notes from a few of these people. The Maelstrom guy in particular was super impressive, though I wasn't impressed with the size of the dong on the Mix-It-Up girl. Her dong is much larger in canon. Next, Holly mentions that Cyberpunk 2077 will definitely be launching on Google Stadia on November 19th, along with the other versions of the game, but if I were you, I would get it on pretty much anything but Stadia. Be a true boss and get it on GOG. It's the best PC store, and it'll give CD Projekt 100% of your money, instead of giving 30% to Valve, Sony, Microsoft, or Google. I'm just kidding, no one's getting it on Stadia. Holly closes the show out with a CGI cinematic called The Diner. It's flashy and features a totally human V being told about cybernetics, then having them installed, but it doesn't really tell us anything we don't already know about the game. There's at least one more episode of Night City Wire to go. What would you like to see from it? What did you think of the vehicle classes? Which style will your V be rocking next month? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Mark the Cyborg, and I hope your upgrades treat you as well as my leg treats me.